Hi there, it's Gabrielle Nicolay from SpeechKids, where we teach little kids to talk and help parents understand their little kids. And today I'm so delighted to be talking to Jill Jerome and Orly Zimmerman from Growing Minds Therapy. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Hi, thanks for having us.
I'm gonna let Jill go first. Tell the good people, oh, and your dogs are barking, and that's fine. Tell the good people who you are and what you do. Go ahead, Jill.
So my dogs are barking, so I'm going to let Orly go first while I quiet them down.
Fair enough.
So we are a child and family therapy center. We are located in Rockville in normal days. Right now we are in the virtual world, and we specialize in using playful and expressive modalities to allow children and families strengthen their self-image, work on their sense of belonging to their family and peers, and make really kind of like promote their emotional and social skills in general, as well as their just connection to everybody kind of like in their systems around them.
So I've referred a lot of people to your practice, as you know, and for different kinds of things. And so I just want to preface, is everybody there a social worker, or who works with you at your practice?
So everybody is a therapist, but not everybody is a social worker.
Okay.
We have clinical social workers as well as what's called LCPCs. So they're counselor degrees. And then we have within that, we have various specializations like art therapists, play therapists, and even music therapists.
Okay. And why do families come to your practice? What kinds of situations or what kinds of things make people say, I better go to Growing Minds Therapy, other than their speech therapist saying, you should go to Growing Minds Therapy?
So the clients that come to us are so often very expressive in nature. These are the children that perhaps have tried some talk therapy and it wasn't their style, or haven't tried it, but their parents really know that they're going to do best through movement and through expression. We find that most children, most people in general, do best through movement and expression, but some are even stronger into that direction where.
And when you say expression, you're not talking about talking.
So there's always talking involved, but I say always, but not always. We can really get things out through our bodies when I say expression. So if we have a child who's showing anger at home, and we, during normal times in the office, but now we do it in different ways at home, if we can get them ripping up paper and really getting it out of their bodies, it's sending a message to the child, to their body that's holding this anger, and also to parents that this type of feeling and expression is okay and is healthy and is necessary and is a form of communication and an agent of change. And we can use it in a way that feels better to everybody, rather than hitting their siblings or throwing things at their parents.
Yeah. And so one of the ways that you all do this is through one-on-one therapy and or family therapy. But another one of the ways that you're doing this more recently is a Sunday morning story hour. And so do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Can I just say before that what we're doing in terms of like the expressive therapy is really based on neuroscience. So this is not just because we think kids are great at expressing themselves through play and art or movement. It's also because we know that for the nervous system, to really incorporate change in the nervous system, we need to like really understand what's going on in this child's brain, and how do we really address the kind of like the needs that this child is showing with sometimes with behaviors or symptoms from that perspective. And that's really what leads us to use these things like Jill was saying, like ripping the paper. What does that do to the child's nervous system, and how does that help repair some of what needs to be repaired?
This is really interesting. Thank you for bringing that up, because one of the things that sort of, I say this and it really does blow my mind, which is, right, feelings have a neurobiological reality in the body. Like, we don't necessarily think about that all the time. We think we have feelings, but feelings have again, a neurobiological sort of fingerprint, right? When you're angry, there's tension, there's a knot in your stomach, there's shallow breathing goes along with that. All of the things that your nervous system is doing to signal to your body. And it is a real experience. It's not external or removed from your physical being. And that is something I think that we don't think about very often. And as soon as we make that connection, then it becomes very clear what we should do with feelings is discharge them in a constructive way. And so when we don't do that, and you guys could speak to this more than me, when we get into a hitting situation, so I'm mad, I hit, that's a closed loop that we then want to break apart and sort of discharge in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think where we start is with the understanding that the symptoms or the behaviors are really just the tip of the iceberg, and then that our role as support for the parents and the family is to kind of like understand all the need that is underneath.
We're translators.
We're translators.
Yeah.
So it starts from a place of like, first we need to understand like what are the needs, right? What are the like why are these symptoms occurring? We're really looking beyond the behaviors and beyond the symptoms into kind of like really a deeper understanding of the needs. And then we really incorporate all of these things that, like you said, are like embedded in the body through allowing expression to occur in a way that children feel drawn to, like natural, kind of, it happens naturally with them. And so we really combine this understanding and helping the parents understand it with the expression. And that's where, you know, the change can really occur.
We're going to get to the story hour in a second, but this is like a good sharp left turn, which is when parents are coming to you, are they already aware that of what you were saying earlier, which is the behavior there's number one, there's a reason for the behavior that is more complex than my child is hitting their sibling? Or are parents really coming to you because their child is hitting their sibling? Where's that line?
I would say both. Would you say, Orly?
Yeah, I think sometimes they come with a little bit more awareness that there might be something underneath that they need to explore. And sometimes it's really much more of a mystery to parents, and they were looking for like that, you know, way to understand it. But I agree. I think it's both.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I wanted to just like keep going with this and say that this is something that Orly and I and every therapist in our practice, we're constantly researching and attending conferences on nonstop. So from Dr. Dan Siegel to Bessel van der Kolk, who says the body keeps the score. Dr. Becky Bailey does a lot of work around this. Peter Levine is a big educator on all of them, and Dr. Dan Siegel says this especially on the myth of the self, the feeling self and the thinking self being separate.
Yeah.
And that this is a myth, that it all lives together and all not just interacts but functions together. So our heart knows how to beat, our thoughts know how to think, and our feelings know how to feel, and they do it all in sync, all together. and it's not to be separated like some of the schools of thoughts have been.
Well, it's interesting
in the recent past.
We become very uncomfortable with that, or we are very uncomfortable with that, and hopefully we become more comfortable with the fact that our feelings are for feeling. I mean, parents are often in the business of sort of redirecting their children's feelings or trying to get their kids out of a feeling, rather than sort of taking a backseat, observing, watching, keeping them safe, and then talking about it afterwards. And that's where like a shame spiral comes in. That's where all kinds of, right, the unmentionable versus is unmanageable kind of situation. And it's super interesting to me, sort of our adult level of either comfort or discomfort with other people's feelings.
I think, Gabrielle, I think it can feel like a failure when a child is angry at us or a child is sad. I think there's so many messages in our culture that we're meant to keep each other happy. And so when a child is angry or sad, it's something to be fixed rather than something that's a natural part of not just development, but part of the human experience throughout the lifespan. And you said it in kind of this way, unmentionable and unmanageable. And the way that we say it is that anything that is mentionable is manageable. And it's hard to mention some things, especially for parents who grew up with the message that things are not mentionable. Yeah. And so at Growing Minds, we work so closely with parents as well. To help them understand where they've received some of those messages and help them understand a new way of doing this for their children. And most of our clients want that. They want to understand where have they received these messages and how can they change this messaging for themselves and then for their children.
It's a huge opportunity, really. The minute we have children, we're like in the deep end of the swimming pool, like relearning a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And
we call that the parallel process. That as you're raising your child, you're also re-raising yourself in so many ways.
And for children to really develop the ability to regulate, they need somebody to co-regulate with them. And so that really is the key. This is not about teaching children to regulate. This is about co-regulating with them so that they develop their brain and their nervous system develop the ability to really eventually regulate.
Say more about that, because I think regulate, number one, people have no idea sometimes what that means. And co-regulate, obviously we can say, okay, we're regulating with somebody. But when we talk about regulation, what are we actually talking about?
When we're talking about regulation, we're talking about the ability to experience feelings, right? Be aware of that, and apply coping skills in an effective way to help us get with the feelings through them. And so we're really talking about like developing healthy coping skills that will allow us to feel our feelings fully and to be with them. When we're talking about co-regulation, we're really helping parents or adults in caretakers in children's lives to be able to experience the feelings that the child is feeling in a way that will send messages to the child that you are safe feeling these feelings and I can handle them with you, which is a big, I think, task. A lot of times, like Jill said, like it's hard for us to think that our child might be angry at us or might be jealous of their sibling or might have like these difficult feelings, and how we try to like take them away so that the child would not have to experience them. And by doing that, we're really not giving children a chance to like work through their feelings, process them, and really learn how to develop these coping skills that are so important for their lives.
Yeah.
We have this beautiful activity that we do that's just coming to mind right now. And it's about finding bruises or scratches or bumps or marks on a child's hands and arms, and just giving them extra attention by circling around them, but not touching the wound, and circling around them and giving them attention for healing. And we do this every week with them, and we say, look how much you've healed. Wow, I can hardly see it anymore. And one day we won't see it. And the idea is that I bring this up because the idea is that we're not protecting children from getting these bruises or these bumps because that's how you live. The idea is really trusting that their bodies know what to do to heal, and that we can be a proponent in that healing just by being with them and just by giving those owies special love and special attention.
Ooh, that was, yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're gonna like veer right now and talk about how story time on Sunday mornings is incorporating some of these things that you're doing in therapy, but in a, is it a group therapy session? Is it a story time? What is it?
So what story time is a dream come true for us. This is something that I started dreaming of when I was 2 or 3 years old watching Mr. Rogers.
Me too.
And that feeling of him making these feelings mentionable and manageable and talking directly to us in a way where he wasn't talking directly to us. He was doing a connection without us being able to truly connect back to him. He couldn't see us. And it launched this this desire in me that we've just began to bring to the community, where it's both. It's not just, Mr. Rogers would always say, you can see me, but I can't see you. And now we get to say to the children, you can see me and I can see you. And we can all wave together with 2 hands, and we can all push our nose and stick out our tongue at the same time. And then we all get to mention things that are really difficult to mention in other areas. And this is not therapy. This is not us getting to know families very intimately, but this is a space where children can raise their hands when I ask, who here has 2 homes? And they can see so many other children raising their hands and not feel as alone. Or who here gets really angry sometimes and rips something up? And they see other children raising their hands, and it becomes not just them anymore.
Yeah. So the books that you're choosing obviously are engaging for kids of what ages-ish?
So this is for preschool through elementary school ages, and many children are coming with their siblings as well. And parents are usually hanging around on the outskirts, or a child is sitting on somebody's lap. And we read the stories, and during it, children are allowed to comment. We actually very much welcome comments or connections to the story, unlike when they're just watching it on YouTube, which serves its purpose as well. But here they're really able to interact with us during the story. And then following the story, we do an art expressive activity to really help them experience what we've spoken about. And I think, Orly, if you want to give some examples of the art expressive activities.
So I just want to say the power, I think the most powerful thing about like these children's participation is that they also make connections with each other. So it's not just like with us or with their caretaker, but also like learning that other children have these feelings as well, or have or sharing similar experiences can be extremely helpful and powerful for children. And so we love this idea of like putting them together in a place where they can find out that they're not alone in this. So often when children have intense feelings, it's very overwhelming and confusing to them because they do think that they're probably just the only person in the world that has those things. They don't know what to make of those big, intense feelings. And so putting them together in such a setting really allows them to understand, I actually have, there are other kids that are going through similar experiences, and I'm not alone in this. Yeah. And so our activities are really designed to, again, make this connection to like a hands-on experience that will allow children to process some of what we're talking about, or the books are mentioning. And so things like ripping paper to talk about anger and then putting it back together, gluing it in a way that creates something new, and talking with children about like how anger really can move us from where we feel very stuck to something, to creating something completely different. Or creating a home from a shoebox and putting on it all the things that we feel like we need in a home, or that we like in a home. Those are the types of activities that we do, and all of our activities are also available for families on YouTube later on if they want to recreate them. We also made families with spoons to represent the different members of our family. So very simple, expressive art activities that don't require, special materials or anything that you need to buy, but rather are really mostly done with like things that are available at every house. And Jill is pulling out her worry eater, which is one of the activities that we did when we were talking with children about feeling worried.
He's a little crumpled, but we took just a bag, whether it was a brown paper bag or a gift bag, and drew our monsters, and then cut a hole, and then children can draw or write their worries, and the worry monster can eat it.
Love it.
And hold it.
Love it.
For them.
Love it.
Yeah, and that feeling of not being alone and holding their worries and expressing it out on paper, it also gives parents a whole lot of insight into what is on their child's mind, because now it's out on paper.
So this is really interesting as you were talking. So this is like part story hour at the library. Of course, now it's virtual because of the pandemic. But in a way that's really curated for in a Mr. Rogers legacy way, curated for emotional health and well-being, run by therapists, and available to everybody. This is free, right? You're doing this at this point for free. Sunday mornings at 10:30. Is that right?
10:30 to 11.
To 11. Okay. And we're going to have all the links on there at the end of this video, and in the type where people can find it. And if people want to know more about your practice, where can they find that?
So on our website, which is growingmindstherapy.com, and really not only that our practice uses playful and expressive modalities, but I also wanted to mention that we use animal assisted therapy with children, which is another form of therapy that we find to be extremely helpful for helping children get through and process some of the things that are difficult in their lives.
Yeah. This has been like so rich and so excellent. Thank you both for coming today.
Yeah, and I just also wanted to add one more thing too, that we have our website, but we also are on Facebook, Instagram, we mentioned YouTube, and also Pinterest. We have these activities on there as well.
Awesome. All the socials.
All the socials, and it's really because we are so committed to making this accessible to our community. We know that therapy can be so difficult to access, or some families aren't sure, is this really something that needs therapy, or we just need some new ways of communicating. And so we want that to be available to our community.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.